This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
It is 5 o'clock here on your Monday. Good morning to you. I'm Lauren Casey.
And I'm Meredith Barrick. Here's what's making headlines on this June 8th. A violent night in Indianapolis after multiple deadly shootings across the city. We are breaking down these investigations in a live report.
Protests this weekend were peaceful as demonstrations reached the suburbs, how cities like Fishers and Brownsburg expressed their message against police brutality.
And after 2 weeks since George Floyd's death, nationwide protests continue. The government leaders now using their voices to join the movement. But first, we need to get a check of your Storm Team 6 forecast.
Yeah, Todd Clausen is standing by from home. Todd, good morning to you. What can we expect as we start a brand new work week?
You know, it's nice and quiet. If you do have to get out on the roadways here this morning, you're in great shape, at least weather-wise. The humidity's still low this morning, and temperature's not all that bad. We're sitting in the 60s to kick off this work week. So what do you need to grab before you go? Basically the same thing that you've had the past few days. The sunglasses, the sunscreen, if you're going to be out in the sun for an extended period of time, and drink plenty of water, as temperatures today will be climbing up into the mid to upper 80s all across the area. 64, though, right now in Greenfield, 62 in Greencastle, 65 in Bloomington. And these temperatures, once the sun does come up, will warm very quickly, and we'll have nothing but sunshine to start our day. Should be absolutely beautiful out there to get going on this Monday morning. But off to our south lies the clouds and a tropical system that's going to lift to our north. And this will bring in the chance of showers and storms into the forecast for tomorrow. So take advantage of today with the low humidity. We'll be around 80 degrees already by the noon hour, with high temperature today up to 88 degrees. We'll talk more about those storm chances for tomorrow coming up in Maine weather in just a few minutes, Lauren.
Todd, thanks. Let's take a look at traffic right now as you're heading out on the roads. This is I-65 near 21st Street north of downtown. Traffic is moving along smoothly, as you can see, northbound and southbound. No crashes here to slow down your commute.
Breaking overnight, Metro Police stretched thin with officers responding to multiple shootings across the city. This is obviously the incorrect graphic behind me. We do want to send it live, though, to where our Kelsey Anderson is downtown outside IMPD headquarters. Kelsey, 7 people shot this morning in 6 different locations.
Yeah, that's right, Meredith. 7 people in 6 different incidents across the city. 2 of those incidents turning deadly. Now take a look. This is where some of the reported shootings happened. The first reported incident, a double shooting, was called in around 11 last night, just north of downtown. 1 person is dead, the other in critical condition. The next shooting happening on Canary Court, where IMPD says another victim has died. On East Washington Street, another call came in. That victim awake and breathing. And over on Tibbs Avenue, another person was shot. They are said to be in stable condition. Another person also walked into Methodist Hospital with a gunshot wound. And the last one happening on Emerson Avenue. That person is said to also be in stable condition. Now, as of Friday, IMPD reported 86 homicides in the Circle City since the beginning of the year, which is more than a 50% increase from homicides we saw here in the same amount of time last year. Now, anyone who has information on these shootings overnight, you're asked to call IMPD or Crime Stoppers at 262-TIPS. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
Kelsey, thank you. Here at 503, protests continued across central Indiana over the weekend. A massive gathering at the State House on Saturday, then several gatherings outside of the city Sunday afternoon.
And our Alyssa Donovan is joining us live this morning with the details on those demonstrations. Alyssa, good morning.
Good morning, Lauren. Saturday's peaceful protests started at the State House on the lawn, where there was a sit-in. Thousands of people showing up to share in this message. And then many of those people continued to march downtown, stopping at places like the City County building to continue sharing their message. They stopped at several locations that were important to them. Now, also suburbs were participating in some of these protests over the weekend. Specifically, Fishers held an event. They called that gathering the Change the Narrative gathering. How do you see me? It drew dozens of people. The peaceful rally was to protest police brutality and to demand justice for black men and women who have died in police custody or were victims of hate crimes by civilians. Organizers say the message needs to be just as loud in the quieter communities surrounding the Circle City.
So if we come here and show them here as well, not just downtown Indy, it just helps spread the word even more.
In Fishers, protesters marched alongside police, the organizers saying they want to start a dialogue with officers, a sentiment not shared by many of the protesters marching in downtown Indianapolis the day before, several of whom were holding signs that read "Defund the police." And I will say I was here at those protests on Saturday. Police were keeping their distance for the most part. They were really only helping with traffic control as people marched through the city. Reporting live, Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
Alyssa, thank you. And as you mentioned, there were peaceful protests in other suburbs as well. Over the weekend in Noblesville, hundreds gathered at the Federal Hill Commons, carrying signs reading, quote, "Black Lives Matter" and, quote, "Say their names," in reference to so many black men and women who have died at the hands of police officers. Organizers say they want to put an end to racial violence in America. Reverend Mindy Mays with the Bethel AME Church in Noblesville spoke to the crowd, saying that she fears as a black woman that she may one day get the call that one of her brothers, her nephews, or her cousins or godson will have some encounter with police that didn't end well, but she said that she has hope for change. In Brownsburg, a small gathering, but with a powerful message. As you can see, the protesters gathering with signs. One said, quote, "Stop killing black people." Another, quote, "I can't breathe. Rest in peace, George Floyd." And another that read, quote, "Stop police brutality." There were uniformed officers at the scene, including one who hugged one of the protesters.
This morning, there is no curfew in Marion County, and there aren't any plans to have more in response to protests. Mayor Hogsett made that announcement Sunday on Twitter. His tweet also praised those who took part in this weekend's downtown protest, calling the turnout record-breaking. He also thanked law enforcement for keeping the large crowd safe.
Today marks 2 weeks since George Floyd was killed in police custody, and protests over his killing continue nationwide, and more leaders are joining the movement. John Lawrence reports.
Streets across the country filled with protesters seeking justice for George Floyd.
We just want to let everybody know that we are tired. We are sick and tired of police brutality.
Most of the weekend demonstrations were peaceful, and the message remains resolute.
Time and time again, our black men and women are being killed by not only just police officers, but by those who think with privilege that think that they can take our life just because of something that we're doing, like jogging.
These words are echoing through Washington, D.C. Republican Senator Mitt Romney among those marching in the nation's capital on Sunday.
Black Lives Matter.
Regarding a President Trump retweet attacking the character of George Floyd, HUD Secretary Ben Carson urged people to hear what Mr. Trump has to say.
I would ask you maybe to reserve judgment until after that time.
The president may address the nation this week to talk about race and national unity, according to a senior administration official.
I think there's racism in the United States still, but I don't think that the law enforcement system is systemically racist. I understand the distrust, however, of the African American community.
And presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden travels to Houston to meet with the Floyd family on Monday. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
9 members of the Minneapolis City Council on Sunday announced they intend to defund and dismantle the city's police department following the police killing of George Floyd. Calls by some to defund or abolish police departments have grown in the wake of Floyd's death.
Art continues to be one way people are calling for change in America. In Raleigh, North Carolina, a street mural reads, "End Racism Now." The 20-foot yellow statement lines one of the major roads in the city's downtown. It took volunteers 6 hours to paint the mural Sunday morning. The street mural was inspired by a similar display on the road to the White House in Washington, D.C. that read "Black Lives Matter."
Back here at home in Indianapolis, artists also using their talents to send a message. Downtown here on Mass Ave, more murals are being painted on businesses that are boarded up amid the protests. Local artists Gentry Parker and Elijah Norwood designed this painting in front of the Grand Union Tattoo in honor of George Floyd. It features a sunflower above a silhouette where people can stand and take a picture in a pledge to end racism and police brutality.
Sadly, my grandparents had to protest, my mother had to protest, and here I am today. And I hope to paint a world or create a world in which my children won't have to do the same.
Well, you can learn more about their mural and see others in the downtown area by visiting our website. It's theindychannel.com. The time now is 5:09. Let's toss things back to Todd to see what we can expect in our Monday forecast. Hey, Todd.
Lauren, good morning to you. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. And the nice weather is going to continue from the weekend right here into the start of the work week. But take advantage of today, because starting tomorrow and then going into Wednesday, we'll have to deal with some wind and the potential for storms from the remnants of Tropical Storm Cristobal. This morning, though, it's a great start. Should be a beautiful sunrise. In fact, hardly a cloud in the sky this morning. Anywhere you are across the area, temperatures are in the mid-60s. Once we get past the 8 o'clock hour, those temperatures will warm very, very quickly with nothing but sunshine. Some high, thin clouds that may start to sneak in here later on this afternoon, especially in southern locations, but no threat of any rainfall in the forecast for the day today. And then tomorrow, some of that rain to our south will start to sneak in here. But look at highs today, upper 80s to low 90s, depending on where you are. The good news is the humidity remains low. That changes tomorrow as well as that tropical system arrives. We'll talk all about it in Maine weather in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you. The U.S. says it's running out of the only proven drug to fight COVID-19. Coming up, what the government is planning to do to get more before the supply runs out this summer.
And Tropical Storm Cristobal has made landfall along the Gulf Coast. Still ahead, a look at the storm as it hits Louisiana and where it's headed next. We'll be right back.
Greatest seasons ever premieres tonight on ABC.
This morning, we're continuing to follow the latest on the COVID-19 outbreak in Indiana. Over the weekend, the Indiana State Department reported 32 new deaths on Saturday and 11 on Sunday. More than 2,100 Hoosiers have died from the virus since the pandemic began. The department also confirmed more than 800 cases, bringing the total number to 37,397. More than 304,000 Hoosiers have been tested. A little more than 12% of those have tested positive. And today, Mayor Joe Hogsett will discuss how funds from the CARES Act will help Marion County in the fight against the coronavirus. The request will go to the City County Council tonight. It includes expanding funding for contact tracing, aid for small businesses, PPE for nonprofits, and additional resources. Hogsett is scheduled to speak at 10:30 this morning. Look for updates on the RTV6 app and the IndyChannel.com.
Our nation's supply of the only proven drug right now that's fighting COVID-19 is set to run out at the end of the month. Remdesivir has been shown to reduce the virus hospital stays from 15 to just 11 days on average. The government's last shipment of the drug will go out the week of June 29th. Gilead Sciences, who makes the drug, is ramping up its production, but it's unclear how much they'll be able to get out for the summer. An official from the U.S. Health and Human Services Department says the government is working to help them with some of its supply chain challenges. And as schools look to get students back in the classroom, it may be the most important for low-income areas to open their doors first. Education and public health experts from Johns Hopkins University point out barriers to online learning that kids in low-income neighborhoods have. There's also more than 20 million children who rely on school breakfast and lunch as a source of food. Surveys indicate 1 in 5 mothers report that their children younger than 12 are going hungry.
Starting today, Instacart is changing how often customers can change the amount of their tips. The change in the company's policy aims to prevent tip baiting. That's where some customers try to use large tips to lure shoppers, then reduce the amount when the groceries are delivered. Instacart says the customers will now have 24 hours to withdraw tips once deliveries are made. Customers will also have to leave feedback before they make the change. The company says that those who engage in tip baiting will have their accounts deactivated.
It is 5:16. Tropical Storm Cristobal made landfall last night in Louisiana, bringing winds and rain to much of the Gulf Coast. This is the third named storm of what's expected to be a really active hurricane season. The city of New Orleans posted a video on social media asking residents there to shelter in place. Many streets are already flooded. Tropical storm warnings are also in effect for Mississippi, Alabama, and portions of the Florida Panhandle. They are facing concerns of major flash flooding. Officials say that the storm will continue to move north into Iowa and Wisconsin. And Todd, as for today, it seems like we're going to have a pretty dry day in the forecast.
Yeah, you know, we'll start to feel some of those impacts tomorrow from Cristobal here in central Indiana, mainly from higher humidity and some wind and some potentially strong to severe storms. But today, you're exactly right, Lauren. There's not a weather worry in the world today. Maybe a little warm for some of you, but the humidity levels today are going to be very, very comfortable. You see that I have highlighted in green. Dew points right around 55 degrees. You notice once you get closer to 70 degrees, that's when it's becoming very humid and more oppressive. So look what what happens tomorrow. The dew points are much higher as we get into your Tuesday, and we get close to that 70-degree mark throughout much of the afternoon. So while today is going to be very, very comfortable, kind of prepare yourself mentally for the humidity to come way up throughout the day tomorrow with warm temperatures and those chance of storms. Live look outside right now. Beautiful shot of our city from IMS looking back off towards the east. We'll have a sun-filled morning and temperatures that are currently sitting around 67 in Indy, 64 in Martinsville, Zionsville and Greenfield at 64 degrees as well throughout the day today. Highs right around 88 to 90 degrees for most of us. You will notice a little more in the way of some high thin clouds starting to come in throughout the afternoon and evening hours tonight, but we will remain completely dry as the skies are clear. But here is the remnants of Cristobal down to the south. You notice there are the clouds, and then there's some of the heavy rainfall that's making its way now towards the Memphis area. But today, we'll just see those high clouds start to come in throughout the afternoon hours. Watch what happens tomorrow, though. We start to bring some scattered showers in, and then a few thunderstorms will be possible as well as we work our way into the evening hours. Now, as these storms come in on the western side of the state, there is a slight risk for severe weather. This should be tomorrow. I need to change the banner. This is tomorrow and not today. And that's because the exact center of low pressure is going to be well off to our west. And with this kind of system, the winds will increase for everybody. So the wind threat, even outside of thunderstorms tomorrow, probably at a medium level. Hail threat's pretty low. But we also have to put the tornado threat in the medium category. Keep in mind with this tropical system, there's a lot of spin, not only in the center of circulation, but in some of those outer bands. So we're not expecting long life tornadoes here across the area, but definitely there could be a couple isolated tornadoes spun up with this system as it moves through. That's for tomorrow. Some scattered showers linger on Wednesday, and it's breezy. Then another beautiful stretch of weather here with cooler temperatures, low humidity, and lots of sunshine Thursday all the way through the weekend. Lauren.
Todd, thank you. Here's a look right now at traffic. This is south of the downtown area. A live picture of I-65 and Keystone Avenue. You can see here that traffic shift remains in place as crews are doing major work here to the bridge over Keystone Avenue on the south side. So just be aware of when you're traveling northbound, you have two big curves to hit. So take it slow as you move through that spot. Southbound lanes are restricted down to just 2 lanes as well. As you can see there, the exit ramps remain open, but use caution as you're merging with all the changes in this area and watch for crews working there throughout the daytime hours.
The U.S. Marine Corps is ordering the removal of all public displays of the Confederate flag on its installations. The branch made the announcement following more removals of Confederate monuments and imagery across the U.S. The Marines say it aims to support its core values. The order requires all images of the flag be removed from offices, naval vessels, and bumper stickers. An exception is made for educational and historical displays. Though the rule demands removal of these items, there are not any specific consequences for it not being followed.
At 5:20, the first U.S. male gymnast to win a world championship gold medal and former Indiana State University star Kurt Thomas has died. His family says that Thomas died Friday after suffering from a stroke. He won the floor exercise in the 1978 World Championships in France. Before that, he competed as a Sycamore, leading ISU to an NCAA title. Kurt Thomas was just 64 years old. In other sports news, mixed martial arts fighter Conor McGregor is retiring again. The Division II UFC champion made the announcement on social media, thanking fans for all the memories. He also promised to buy his mother her dream home. This isn't the first time McGregor said he was calling it quits, though. He made a similar announcement back in March of 2019, but returned to the ring earlier this year.
A teenager's efforts to clean up his community after protests are being recognized by his community. After the break, the big thank you they're giving him for all his hard work. We'll be right back.
Even Petey can do it.
An 18-year-old in Buffalo, New York, was given a big surprise after his efforts to help clean up from the city's protests. Antonio Gwynn was watching the protest on Facebook Live when he saw the demonstrations turn destructive. So to help, he spent around 10 hours cleaning up the streets. That's something he says his late mother would have done. One man took notice and decided to give Gwynn his car, a 2004 red convertible Mustang.
I couldn't come to grips with selling it, and this was a good way for me to get rid of it and know someone that gets it is going to appreciate it, I think.
Like, it doesn't feel real. It seems like this is like a movie just going on.
Oh, and it gets better. Gwynn was also offered a full ride scholarship to Medill College. He says he plans on studying business and mechanics so he can start his own repair shop.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love seeing so many good things come out of some sad times for many people. So
yeah, great story there. And we do have some good news, Meredith, also in the forecast. So we want to check in with Todd and see what we can expect as we start a brand new work week. Todd.
New work week, more of the same weather. Yesterday, temperatures in the mid-80s. Today, we probably cranked the temperature up a few more degrees, ladies, into the upper 80s. But the good news is the humidity, that remains low throughout the day today. In fact, look at the temperature already. By the noon hour, we're up to 80 degrees with those mostly sunny skies. And then as we continue into the afternoon hours today, high temperatures anywhere from about 87 degrees to maybe as high as 92, depending on where you are. But again, humidity is low throughout the day today. Tomorrow, the humidity comes way up, as will the chance of some thunderstorms. We'll talk more about those remnants of Cristobal that are heading our way coming up in just a little bit.
The signs, as you can see, say that the road is closed, but people are concerned with what's beyond the barricades. I'm Rafael Sanchez. That story coming up on RTV6.
Show today at 10 on RTV6. This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
Gunfire across the metro area, sending several people to the hospital. Breaking now at 5:30. We are live with the very latest on the investigation into a violent 8 hours.
Plus, protests continue here in Indy and across the country. This morning, the message they want you to hear as they march for justice. But first, 5:30 here on your Monday morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Meredith Barrett.
And I'm Lauren Casey. Todd Clausen is joining us from home this morning. And Todd, what can we expect in our Monday forecast?
You know, I think you're going to like the forecast, ladies. Lots of sunshine, the humidity, that's going to remain low, which is always a good thing, right? And as we go into the afternoon hours, it may be a little warm for some of you out there. But nonetheless, it's a really nice Monday, at least compared to what's heading our way for tomorrow. That's why you need to take advantage. Temperatures this morning sitting in the 60s, 67 in Indy, one of the warmer spots, 64 Martinsville, Bedford at 61 degrees as is Tipton, and 69 as you make your way towards Lafayette. Off in the distance, the skies, look at that. Just now starting to brighten a little bit. Sunrise officially not until 6:17 here this morning, but we'll have plenty of sunshine from start to finish throughout the day today. But you'll notice some high thin clouds start to move in later on, and that's from this system down to our south, which is now tropical depression Cristobal. But this is going to bring a lot of humidity our way, some rain tomorrow, and the chance of even some severe weather and a lot of wind as well. So today, mostly sunny skies throughout the mid-afternoon hours, and those high thin clouds will start to come in with high temperatures in the 80s. The humidity, it comes way up for tomorrow. More on that coming up in just a little bit, Lauren.
All right, Todd, let's take a look at traffic right now. If you are heading out early to work this morning, this is I-70 at Rural Street and Keystone Avenue on the near east side. Traffic is moving along up to speed in both directions. As you can see, no major issues here to slow down your commute, but of course we'll keep you updated.
Breaking overnight, Metro Police stretched thin with officers responding to multiple shootings across the city. Overnight, at least 7 people were shot in the span of just a few hours. Our Kelsey Anderson is live outside the CCB this morning with a closer look at all those incidents. Kelsey.
Hey, good morning, Meredith. So there is still a lot we need to learn about what happened in Indianapolis overnight. But what we know right now is that 7 people were shot in 6 different incidents and 2 people are dead. So take a look at this. This is where some of those reported shootings happened. The first, a double shooting. It was called in around 11 last night, just north of downtown. 1 person is dead, the other in critical condition. The next happening on Canary Court, where IMPD says another victim has died. On East Washington Street, another call came in. That victim awake and breathing. Over on Tibbs Avenue, another person was shot. They are said to be in stable condition. Another person also walked into Methodist Hospital with a gunshot wound. And the last one happening on Emerson Avenue, that person is said to also be in stable condition. All of these shootings happening in the span of just 4 hours overnight. And as of Friday, IMPD reported 86 homicides in the Circle City since the beginning of the year, which is more than a 50% increase from the homicides we saw here last year in the same time period. Now, anyone with information on these homicides or on these shootings that happened overnight, IMPD, of course, wants to hear from you. You can call them anonymously at 317-262-10. tips. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
Kelsey, thank you. Protests continued across central Indiana over the weekend. We can show you here on Sunday several demonstrations were held in Indianapolis and even the suburbs. On Saturday, a massive turnout for a sit-in at the Indiana State House. Eventually, that turned into a march throughout downtown. And our Alyssa Donovan is joining us because she was at the sit-in over the weekend. Alyssa, what can you tell us from everything that took place there?
Yeah, you know what? That demonstration on Saturday was massive. Thousands of people came to that sit-in that was held on the State House lawn on Saturday. It started around 3 p.m. And we know that it was a very quiet sit-in, quiet protest rather, compared to some of the other ones that we've seen throughout the past week or so. There was a moment of silence where the only sound was actually that helicopter flying above and monitoring the crowd. After the sit-in, marchers went across the Circle City, stopping at prominent locations like the City County building here downtown. That sit-in starting at 3 p.m. and then many of those protesters continuing well into the night. Numbers dwindling but staying strong in the hundreds during the march around the Circle City. A large group marching from Mass Avenue to the prosecutor's office to the CCB and then to Monument Circle. The demonstration lasting until past the 8 p.m. curfew that was set on Saturday evening. Protesters we spoke with bringing up the past, what has been done and what has not.
My grandmother's grandmother walked for the same thing, right? So that makes generations of us fighting for the same thing. It's ridiculous.
And then on Sunday, protests were held in neighboring cities like Fishers, Brownsburg, and Noblesville. And we don't know if there is a protest planned for today just yet, but we are expecting to hear more from Mayor Joe Hogsett this morning on these protests. Reporting live, Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
Alyssa, thank you. The protests sparked by the killing of George Floyd remained mostly peaceful across the country this weekend, but organizers say they don't plan to stop rallying until there are changes in police policy. As ABC's Mona Kosar-Abdi reports, what comes next is still unclear.
As thousands march in cities from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., taking a stance against police brutality, the city council in Minneapolis is announcing the intent to dismantle the city's police force.
Our commitment is to end our city's toxic relationship with the Minneapolis Police Department, to end policing as we know it.
Their plan is to end the police department through a budgetary process over the next year, diverting those funds toward a community-based public safety model.
It is your voice. It is your fight that has gotten us to this point.
Earlier, protesters booed Mayor Jacob Frey after he said he does not support abolishing the police force. In Washington today, House Democrats will unveil legislation aimed at reforming policing policies. The bill is expected to impose new conditions on funding for law enforcement and make it easier to prosecute police officers in civil court for misconduct. The nationwide push for dismantling police departments is gaining traction. New York City Mayor Bill Deblasio has announced a list of reforms for the NYPD.
I want to make a statement of principle right now that we will be moving funding from the NYPD to youth initiatives and social services.
In Los Angeles, brutal criticism from the police union, which is now questioning the mayor's mental health after he announced plans to cut the LAPD's budget.
We're worried and concerned about Eric Garcetti. He is clearly unstable.
Other critics say defunding the police is simply absurd.
It makes no sense to me. I think it's a very political statement to make, but it does not protect our communities at the end of the day.
Mona Kosar-Abdi, ABC News, New York.
It is 5:37. The Centers for Disease Control says it's closely monitoring these nationwide protests sparked by Floyd's death. There's some concerns that these large demonstrations and other large gatherings could lead to a spike in COVID-19 outbreaks. The CDC is also concerned about the use of tear gas and similar chemical agents on protesters because they cause people to cough, which can increase transmission of the virus. It's important to take note that it takes about an average of 7 to 14 days for COVID-19 symptoms to manifest. So it's likely going to be maybe a couple of weeks to see if we do see a spike in those cases.
Taking a look at the latest numbers from the state health department, 11 new deaths were reported as of Sunday. That brings the total number of Hoosier deaths to 2,121. There were also 417 new cases of COVID-19 reported. More than 304,000 people have been tested for the coronavirus in the state. We do expect an update from the state today around noon.
Some of our neighbors who are the most vulnerable to COVID-19 have extra clothes and supplies and even necessities now, and it's all thanks to generous volunteers. Sunday, several health and advocacy groups hosted an event outside of Wheeler Mission downtown to support men, women, and families who are experiencing homelessness. They were given free personal hygiene kits, face coverings, books, and more. Organizers say that people without stable housing face extra challenges when it comes to protecting themselves from the virus.
They're just on the forefront. A lot of times some of them may be sleeping in the outdoors, and very difficult with our places of business being closed, having the ability to access resources.
Now, for many of our homeless neighbors, health care is a barrier. Many of our homeless neighbors do not have clear, easy access to health care. And so my message is very simple. At Eskenazi Health and the Marion County Public Health Department, we are honored to care for our homeless neighbors.
The president and CEO of Health and Hospital Corporation says Eskenazi community centers across Indianapolis provide free health care services to people who are in need. At 5:39, we do want to get a check of our Monday forecast. Todd Clausen is standing by from home. Good morning, Todd.
Lauren, good morning to you. It's going to be another nice day for us here weather-wise across the area. We're carrying over the sunshine from the weekend. Temperatures in the upper 80s, so that may be a little warm for some of you, especially if you're heading out there to exercise. So the best opportunity probably for you to get out and about to avoid some of the heat, which is your only alert, is going to be here this morning. If the heat doesn't bother you, you're good to go throughout the entire day, because look at the temperature trend throughout the day today, as we will be warming very, very quickly here. Your patio forecast through the 60s into the 70s to 80 degrees already by the noon hour. High temperatures today will be topping off in the upper 80s. The humidity, though, remains very low throughout the day today. That changes in a big-time way tomorrow. The humidity surges. Our chance of storms comes up for your day on Tuesday, as does the threat of severe weather. We'll highlight all those threats for you coming up in your main weather forecast, which is coming up in just a few minutes. But right now, it's time for a break. The time now is 5:40. Stay with us. We're back here on Good Morning Indiana in just a few minutes.
Situation has changed. We may be able to help.
It is 5:44. Here's a live look right now. Traffic on the north side, I-465 near Ditch Road. You can see traffic there is moving along up to speed on the interstate down below, both eastbound and westbound. We'll keep you updated if there are any delays you need to avoid for your Monday morning commute.
A California community is mourning the loss of a sheriff's deputy after he and others were allegedly ambushed by a gunman. This happened in Santa Cruz County Saturday night. The sheriff's office says around 1:30 in the afternoon, a call was received about a suspicious van that was parked in a turnout. When deputies arrived, the van was leaving the area. Officers followed it to a home and then were ambushed with gunfire and multiple explosives. Sergeant Damon Gutzweiler was shot and later died at the hospital. 2 other deputies were also injured. The department says the loss of Sergeant Gutzweiler is devastating for the entire community. The suspect is Stephen Carrillo, an active duty member of the Air Force. A spokesman at Travis Air Force Base says Carrillo arrived there in June of 2018 and is a member of the 60th Security Forces Squadron. He's expected to face murder charges, assault with a deadly weapon, carjacking, and other charges. The FBI is also now investigating whether Carrillo is involved in the shooting death of another officer in Oakland, California back in May.
2 police officers in Buffalo, New York, captured on this video pushing a 75-year-old protester to the ground, have now been arraigned on assault charges. 39-year-old Aaron Torgalski and 32-year-old Robert McCabe were in court on Saturday. The 2 were suspended immediately, prompting the remaining 57 members of the Buffalo Police Emergency Response Team to resign from that unit in protest of the suspensions. The victim, Martin Gugino, is now a longtime peace and human rights activist. Police initially said that he tripped and fell. Several state leaders came out against the officers, calling the incident, quote, quote, disturbing and, quote, unacceptable. Mr. Gugino was last listed in serious but stable condition.
Presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden will be in Houston today to meet with the family of George Floyd and offer his condolences. The former vice president has delivered speeches calling for the end of systemic racism in the nation after Floyd's death at the hands of police sparked widespread protests across the nation. Biden does not plan to attend the service to avoid disruptions that could be caused by his Secret Service detail, but he will record a video message for Floyd's funeral service on Tuesday. Biden has criticized President Trump's response to the unrest across the nation, saying, quote, it's time for him to step up out of his own bunker, take a look around at the consequences of his words and his actions, end quote. Here at 5:46, Todd Clausen joining us here. Todd, we've got some hot weather headed our way.
Yeah, you know, we're back into the upper 80s. I think some locations, Meredith, this afternoon probably get up into the low 90s. That said, it's going to be a very comfortable heat as the humidity is going to remain very, very low. But we're probably talking about 5 degrees warmer than yesterday if you want to make a comparison out there. Here is a live look from IMS towards downtown as the skies start to brighten on this Monday morning. We're in the mid-60s right now for your temperatures. We're going to quickly warm through the 70s into the mid to upper 80s later on this afternoon. I do think, as I mentioned, with all the sunshine there, there'll be a few 90s across the area as well. Now, the satellite radar picture is pretty quiet here locally, but down to our south, you notice the big spin with both the clouds and the precipitation or the rainfall. That is the remnants of a tropical storm Cristobal, which is now just a tropical depression. But the track of this is going to take it out of Mississippi up through Arkansas into St. Louis and then into western Illinois. So that means we are going to be on the eastern fringe of this system as it starts to make its way to the north. And on the eastern side of tropical systems like that, you get a lot of the feeder bands, and there usually is some rotation within the center of the storm and some of these bands. So tomorrow we are expecting the potential of some strong to severe storms with the chance of an isolated tornado threat. So keep that in mind if you do have plans. This is TrueCast for tomorrow. You notice first the clouds. We probably miss out on a lot of the rainfall until late afternoon, evening hours, and that's when some of these bands of rain are going to start to lift through. So tomorrow's not a washout from start to finish. I know kind of when you hear tropical storm remnants, you think it's going to be a washout. Not the case. It's just some storms that are going to be moving through at times during the afternoon and into the evening hours. So what are the threats? Well, wind is going to be a threat, whether it's within the thunderstorms or outside the thunderstorms. So that's at a high level for us. The tornado threat, low to moderate. The yellow that you see from Peru to Indy to Bloomington, Evansville, westward, that's a slight risk of severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center. Not too concerned about hail or the potential of flooding with this system, but then definitely tomorrow there will be the chance of some quick spin-up tornadoes, not the long-lived tornadoes. That is the good news. Temperatures tomorrow with the clouds a little bit cooler, but the humidity comes way up throughout the day tomorrow. So not only do we get this tropical storm remnants moving through, it's going to feel a lot more tropical with the humidity around. Some showers linger into Wednesday. Wednesday's still a little breezy, but then great weather Thursday all the way into next weekend with lots of sunshine and cooler temperatures.
All right, Todd, thank you. This is a look right now at traffic as you're heading out on the roads this Monday. I-465 here, a view at Emerson Avenue. Good morning to you in the Beech Grove area. Traffic is very quiet, as you can see. Everything's traveling up to speed on the interstate and on Emerson Avenue, so have a safe morning commute.
His story touched race fans everywhere. Now John Andretti's legacy is being told in a whole new way. Ahead this morning, how you can read all about it. We'll be right back.
By appointment at select stores or at mybobs.com.
As racing returns around the United States, one author is taking a moment to look back. John Andretti lost his battle with cancer last January.
But his legacy is on display in a brand new way. And this morning, sports director Dave First shows us how you can read all about it.
You've been great to us.
It was a life and career made for TV. John Andretti was on it a lot. And now his story comes in a whole new way.
I was talking with a friend, and we got to talking about John, and the idea just kind of popped up. Wow, it would be great to do a book with John.
Absolutely. And writer Jade Gerst doing just that, entitled Racer, capturing the many aspects to John's career.
I don't know that the current generation really understands
the diversity that John had when it came to racing a car.
The book is great about showing that diversity and him actually detailing kind of some of the differences between all of those.
Including his most successful time in NASCAR and a win for Richard Petty in 1999.
He talks about that with great reverence. Like, I think at that moment, he appreciated and understood what it meant for Richard and his team, who hadn't seen victory lane in a lot of years.
Ultimately, the book touches on his 2017 colon cancer diagnosis and the still ongoing Check It for Andretti campaign. His goal coming out of the initial diagnosis was, I want to help other people to make sure they are not in my shoes.
The single thread through the book is family, friends, and helping others. That's always a thread underneath even the funniest racing stories.
And that includes the 23 years of his race for Riley, the annual karting event, which raised nearly $5 million. John opening up in a series of interviews about the good times and the bad.
There were days when I got there that he clearly did not feel good, did not have much energy. Mm-hmm. But after a question or two, or if I would hit on something, you could see his face light up. Personally, selfishly for me, that was a great feeling, knowing that he so enjoyed sharing a lot of the stories.
Pre-orders are available at octanepress.com with 10% of the proceeds going back to Riley Children's Hospital. He's still giving back the way John would want it. Dave First, RTV6 Sports.
All right. Thank you, Dave, for that. Obviously, John did a lot of good here in this community as well as the racing world. Here's your 7-day planning forecast. 88 degrees today, a warm and a muggy conditions as we work our way throughout the course of the remainder of the next couple days. You'll notice the storms around Tuesday and Wednesday, and the storms on Tuesday could be borderline strong to severe with the tornado threat, because this is a tropical system that is going to be moving through as we get into Wednesday, 79 degrees. Your high temperature still breezy, still some scattered showers around. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, a beautiful stretch of weather we're looking at with mostly sunny skies, lower humidity once again, and temperatures that'll be running a little bit cooler than what we've seen, as highs for Saturday and Sunday will be in the 70s. Raphael?
The signs, as you can see, say that the road is closed, but people are concerned with what's beyond the barricades. I'm Rafael Sanchez. That story coming up on RTV6.